Let's take you there live.
Facilitate the Q&A session, and then we'll take it from there. Mr. Mlalazi, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malele, our national spokesperson, and greetings to the National Executive Committee of the NTA that is logged in, and also good morning to the media, and thank you for accepting our invite. Let me start with a disclaimer. The purpose of this briefing is regarding the COVID-19 relief fund for the taxi industry pledged by government. And unfortunately, a lot of things happened to the extent that we ended up in court. Now, the challenge is we have just received an invitation from the National Minister of Transport inviting us to the launch of the briefing tomorrow, when we had already arranged this media briefing in anticipation that we were not going to be part of the briefing. Now, protocol demands that we don't contradict the minister, because if I look at the program, it's a well-loaded program. But since we received the invitation late, we will continue to brief the media, but at the same time, we will apologize to the Minister of Transport and Government because we received their invitation very late, and consequently, the media had already logged in, and we think it would be disrespectful of us to call off this media briefing. Over to you, NSP.
Thank you very much, General Secretary. I think it is indeed appropriate that we forge ahead. It is unfortunate that these correspondences only arrived now when the horses had already bolted. So we may very well forge ahead and engage the media into the crux of today's briefing.
Yeah. The purpose of this briefing, as I've already alluded to, is regarding the taxi relief fund due to the effects of COVID-19 on the economies of the taxi industry. I'll then present our briefing. The National Taxi Alliance is excited to announce that after fighting a tough battle with the Minister of Transport and the department to remove the harsh, unreasonable, and unjustifiable requirements government had put in place as a prerequisite for taxi operators to access the COVID-19 relief fund. The requirements were far removed from the intended objectives of the fund, which in the main are to mitigate the human tragedy that has befallen the taxi industry caused by the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic to the livelihoods of taxi operators and their families. The opportunistic and ill-advised conditions weighed against the COVID-19 calamity were simply designed to make it impossible for the taxi industry to access the tax relief funds within the stipulated period. We are happy that finally sanity has prevailed and superior logic has triumphed over intransigence by the Minister of Transport and the department. After tax relief fund negotiations between the Minister of Transport, his department, and the National Taxi Alliance reached a deadlock. The National Taxi Alliance took the minister and the department to court through our attorneys, Larry Marks and advocate Sam Cohen, who served summonses wherein the NTA on behalf of taxi operators was praying for the removal of the cumbersome and impossible to meet conditions for accessing the funds, which were gazetted by government. The minister and the department failed to oppose our summonses within the stipulated period, and the matter was set down for an unopposed court decision early 2022, next year. Failure by government to oppose the NTA court application was a tacit admission that government had erred in its imposition of the opportunistic and unhelpful conditions. Now that the Minister of Transport and the department have conceded to the National Taxi Alliance prayers before court and removed all the obstacles to accessing the relief fund through a letter written to the President of the National Taxi Alliance dated 26 November 2021. Yes, we received a letter after the department had failed to oppose our summonses in court. We received a letter, as I said, dated 26 November 2001, where the minister and the department concede to the prayers of the NTA. We call upon the minister and the department to speed up the release of the funds to the taxi operators without undue delays. Government must appreciate that the taxi industry is feeding, clothing, and educating many before we even talk about the so-called black tax. And therefore, further delays are entrenching poverty in families that are taxi income dependent. An unprecedented number of taxi operators have had their taxis repossessed by financial institutions due to the effects of COVID-19, with no prospects of ever reclaiming them. We therefore warn that in the event of undue delays in the release of the funds, we will not hesitate to go back to court seeking a declaratory order compelling government to release the funds on the date and conditions determined by the court. The National Taxi Alliance strongly believes that this episode has opened a door for government and the taxi industry to engage on serious and vigorous negotiations on such matters as formalization, professionalization, eradication of taxi violence and conflicts, passenger subsidies for the taxi industry, and of course, promulgation of enabling legislation. The botched 2020 National Taxi Lekgotla, which was marred by the government's ineptitude, insincerity, and partisanship, aimed at appeasing a section of the taxi industry at the expense of the rest, will go down in history as a missed opportunity for both government and the taxi industry to make strides towards the realization of a formal, prosperous minibus taxi industry able to take its rightful place in the economy of our country and better provide excellent service to the 70% of the commuting public it caters for daily. We hold this media briefing at the beginning of our 2021/2022 festive season holidays, and sadly in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic currently presenting with an Omicron variant. The National Taxi Alliance, through our Ndlelanhle Road Safety and Customer Care campaign, will be launching its 2021-2022 Ndlelanhle Road Safety and Customer Care campaign on the 15th of December on the N3 highway next to the Heidelberg Way Bridge from 11 a.m. National government, provincial government, and law enforcers are expected to attend this event, which will be focusing on road safety, customer care, messages against gender-based violence, adherence to the COVID-19 regulations and protocols, and last but not least, encouraging taxi drivers and passengers to vaccinate. We will also be handing out sanitizers, masks, and pamphlets on the day. The President and the Executive Committee of the National Taxi Alliance wish all our taxi passengers and fellow road users who will be traveling during the festive season safer travels, and we wish our business partners and all compatriots a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Thank you very much. That is the message the NTA is delivering. And as I have already indicated that we have just received an invitation which would be dealing with this similar, but unfortunately it arrived late. So I'll hand over back to our national spokesperson, Mr. Theo Malele. Thank you.
Thank you very much, GS, for articulating so eloquently our presentation this morning. It is now an opportunity for members of the media to field any questions of clarity, regarding what we have just put forward. Please indicate by raising your hand on your screens, and I will give you an opportunity to respond. Well, I don't seem to see any hand on the platform. This then means that everyone is content with NTA's presentation. I would assume so. Yeah. There aren't any questions. There aren't any questions at GS. I guess we've been spot on, unless I'm being proven otherwise. Okay, let's give it a countdown of 3, 2, 1. There hasn't been any hand thus far. And I guess GS, everybody is quite content with our presentation this morning. See all media houses.
The General Secretary and the National Spokesperson of the National Taxi Association, the NTA, saying that what they meant to present today was sort of cut short by a letter that came through from the Department of Transport, from the Minister, saying that they're willing to engage, but still putting out their matters of contention, asking the Minister to please speed up the release of the funds without delay. Taxis have been repossessed and families are struggling, saying they have been fighting a tough battle with the Ministry regarding the taxi industry's access to the COVID-19 relief fund, saying that the conditions that are required by government in the application process make it impossible for taxi operators to complete the process during the allotted time, but also saying that they agree with government that there's a need for formalization and professionalization of the taxi industry. Of course, they will go ahead and have that engagement with the department. I'm sure we'll get a date as soon as possible. Now, the Tshwane taxi industry